Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to totally strip away the complex, anxiety-inducing noise of Wall Street to uncover the straightforward, honest truth about building wealth. We're diving into the core principles from J.L. Collins's groundbreaking philosophy, The Simple Path to Wealth. Now, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by financial advice, or, maybe you've just kept your savings in a shoebox under your bed because you literally had no idea what else to do with it, well, you are in exactly the right place.
So let's kick things off with a pretty provocative thought. While our social feeds are absolutely flooded with flashy crypto bros, NFT pushers, and these incredibly loud influencers using bold music and complex charts, the actual secret to wealth is quietly unsexy. It turns out the most reliable path to financial independence doesn't look like a high-speed Hollywood movie. Actually, it looks remarkably boring.
All right, Section 1, Escaping the Financial Grifters.
You see, when you finally manage to scrape together a little bit of extra money after paying your rent and your bills, you naturally look around for some advice. But boom, you're immediately met with an industry that literally thrives on confusion. Wall Street intentionally makes investing look impossibly complex just to sell you their products. They rely on these active stock pickers in fancy suits, charging you hefty fees to play a game that is almost impossible to win long term. But on the flip side, we have the simple path. The antidote to these grifters is surprisingly simple, low stress, and historically super reliable. You really don't need all those complex products. You can just sweep all of that right off the table.
Which brings us to Section 2, 3 Rules for Wealth.
We're going to look at 3 rules that are agonizingly simple yet completely transformative if you actually follow them. Honestly, if you only take one single thing away from this explainer, let it be these 3 undeniable rules for money. Number 1, spend less than you earn. Number 2, invest the surplus. And number 3, avoid debt. Tragically, most people do the exact opposite, right? Sometimes even going deep into debt just to fund their current lifestyle. But listen, following these rules isn't about being cheap. It is absolutely not about living a life of deprivation.
Following those 3 rules is really about buying the single most important thing in life, and that is your freedom. It's what Collins famously calls FU money. Now, this isn't some magical endpoint. It's a financial cushion acquired over time that gives you real economic power. Think of it kind of like going to the gym. Every time you save and invest, you get a little bit stronger. So if you happen to slip on the ice in the real world, like, say, getting stuck with a terrible new boss or facing a sudden layoff, you have the strength and the cushion to just step away totally unhurt.
Okay, Section 3, the power of index funds.
So the really crucial point here is knowing exactly where to put that surplus money you've been saving up. Because just letting it sit in a checking account, that isn't going to build wealth. Instead of playing the impossible game of trying to pick individual winning stocks, you use a low-cost, broad-based index fund. The absolute prime example here is VTSAX, Vanguard's Total Stock Market Index Fund, which was pioneered by Jack Bogle way back in 1975. You don't need to hire some expensive financial advisor at a massive firm. You simply open an account and you buy this fund. And here is why that specific strategy is so incredibly powerful. By holding this single fund, you instantly own a tiny piece of roughly 3,600 companies. That means virtually every publicly traded company in the United States. Think about that for a second. Everyone from the factory floor worker to the CEO of all these massive companies is suddenly waking up every single day and going to work to make you richer. And this brilliantly illustrates the historical power of that exact strategy. Over a really turbulent 40-year period, I'm talking a period that included massive market crashes, the dot-com bubble, and the 2008 financial crisis, the market still returned a staggering average of 11.9% annually. Even if you stretch it out over 50 years, the return hovered right over 12%. It's just remarkably consistent over the long haul.
But you might be sitting there wondering, well, what happens when massive companies fail? Well, you actually don't have to worry about individual companies dying. Look at Sears. In 1973, they were so dominant they built the tallest building in the entire world. Today, they're gone. But the index fund is what Collins calls self-cleansing. As old giants like Sears fade to zero and drop out of the index, new explosive winners like Amazon and Walmart automatically rotate up to replace them at the very top. So you always own the ultimate winners without ever having to guess who they're going to be.
Moving on to Section 4, surviving FOMO and crashes.
Knowing the simple path is one thing, right? But staying on it when everyone else is either panicking or getting rich quick, well, that's another story completely. It is incredibly hard to ignore the fear of missing out, or FOMO, when your friends are bragging in the group chat about these massive overnight gains in crypto, or when specific tech giants are shooting up thousands of %.
It honestly makes a 12% average return feel agonizingly slow. You naturally start to think, man, why don't I just dump all my money into the next big tech company or crypto coin?
To answer that, we absolutely must understand a fundamental truth. We have to separate investing from speculation. Investing in something like an index fund means you are buying companies that are actively creating products, providing real services, and generating actual profits. Speculation, on the other hand, like buying crypto, gold, or even a rare Pokemon card, is really just hoping that someone eventually buys your asset for more than you paid for it. It's not generating inherent value. It's just a hope, not a reliable long-term engine for building wealth.
Now, on the exact flip side of FOMO is absolute terror. What if disaster strikes? What if a global pandemic hits, the political landscape shifts dramatically, or the whole market just plummets 40%? We hear it all the time. This time it's different. It's just too scary to invest right now.
Here's the thing. We have to accept reality. Massive crashes are guaranteed. Over the last half-century alone, there have been 3 separate drops of over 50%. Think about 1974, the dot-com crash, the 2008 debacle, and even the sudden 33% plunge during COVID. The trigger for every single crash is always completely different and, yeah, entirely terrifying in the moment. But the market's pattern of eventually recovering and continuing on to new, unprecedented highs is remarkably, statistically consistent.
And speaking of things we get completely wrong about wealth, let's shatter one more major societal myth. We are so conditioned to believe that buying a house is the ultimate financial investment. But in reality, a house is a lifestyle choice. From the mortgage interest and real estate taxes to endless maintenance, high-cost remodels, and buying all that new furniture, a house actively drains your wealth. It's essentially a physical object that's constantly trying to return to dust in the earth, and you are paying a massive premium to stop it. Which means renting, while aggressively investing your surplus cash into an index fund, is a highly valid and often far superior path to actual riches.
Finally, Section 5, the philosophy of freedom.
Let's zoom out to the ultimate why behind all of this. Why live on less? Why endure the boring, steady process of saving and indexing instead of just buying flashy things right now? Well, this brings us to a really brilliant ancient story, the parable of the monk and the minister. 2 childhood friends meet up later in life. One is a humble monk in tattered robes, the other is a rich, powerful minister to the king. The rich minister looks at his old friend and says, if you could learn to cater to the king, you wouldn't have to live on rice and beans. And the monk just smiles and replies, if you could learn to live on rice and beans, you wouldn't have to cater to the king.
Wealth isn't about buying a shiny new Cadillac or flexing your lifestyle on the internet. It is the quiet, unbreakable power of never having to bend to someone else's will. So ask yourself this tonight. Are you willing to ignore the flashy noise of the modern world, avoid the grifters entirely, and embrace the brilliantly boring path to secure your ultimate, undeniable independence?